It's Big Board Sports with Roger Wyland on 104.5 The Team.
Tim Kurkjian partners up, and we do too, with our partners not far from here in Cooperstown, the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum. And we welcome Tim Kurkjian to our show on this Friday morning edition of Big Board Sports, 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio in Albany. Good morning, Timmy. How are you?
Well, Roger, how you doing?
We're doing great. We were on the Yankees right before we went to break before you, and they're on pace right now, Tim, to win 113 games. They're also on pace to hit 275 home runs. And I told my partner, Chris Honorado, that the record is 264 by the 1997 Seattle Mariners. This Yankee team is an absolute machine right now.
It is, and I think the Yankees are going to break that record. I kind of thought that at the beginning of the year, but now after seeing what Gleyber Torres can do and Miguel Andujar can do, now they don't have an out in their lineup. 1 through 9, they can take you deep. When Torres was hitting ninth, he hit, I believe, his first 11 homers out of the number 9 spot. The record is 21 in that spot by Kevin Elster in 1996. And now they're starting to get Stanton going a little bit. Sanchez is going to get going pretty soon. And I think at the end of the year, they're going to hit 280 homers and win 100 games. That's pretty darn good.
Pretty darn good. And they do it on a day when, you know what, Severino, 3 runs over 5 2/3, and they're calling that an off day. And the way he's been going, go back to his start over the weekend on Saturday when he pitched 8 shutout innings against the Rays. I guess that is just an off day for Sevy, but they can survive an off day with Sevy the way they can hit the ball. And the other thing, Tim, they beat a good Seattle team, right? It's a Mariners team which was 20 games over 500 coming into the Bronx, and they were swept.
They swept them, and they beat them in close games, too, which is the game. Those are the games that the Mariners have been winning all year. And with Severino, Roger, you know this from watching. He is a number 1 starting pitcher now. Stuff-wise, he's good as just about anybody in the game. But it was really encouraging for the Yankees yesterday for him to not be at his best. And instead of blowing up or getting knocked around, he kept them in the game. That is what great pitchers do. They pitch without their best stuff and still win. And that's what he did yesterday.
And, Tim, you know this is a theme of mine, but go back a week, and he did one of the great moves that we'll see all season. He stole a pop-up away from his catcher.
Well, we've been over this, fellas. Pitchers should be allowed to catch a pop-up, for goodness sake. They all played shortstop in high school when they weren't pitching. It's not that difficult. I told you that Sid Fernandez of the Mets once told me he went 8 years into his career before he caught a pop-up. That's ridiculous. Go ahead and tell Bob Gibson, who played for the Globetrotters, hey, you're not allowed to catch a pop-up. That's absurd. So, yes, I always cheer out loud when a pitcher says, get out of my way. I'm going to catch this.
And a Kevin Elster reference, too, which I love. My grandfather was a huge Mets fan, had a love affair with Elster because of his glove, certainly not because of his bat. Tim Kurkjian with us here on Big Board Sports, 104.5 The Team, ESPN Radio. Check him out on Twitter, @Kurkjian_ESPN. Tim, the Red Sox get a win yesterday. They get to 50 wins. And I'm curious, as somebody who knows as much about baseball as you do, have you ever seen a team with such a streak of success as the Red Sox seem to have when Eduardo Rodriguez is on the mound? And I guess that's save for any kind of ace. This is a guy who's deep down the rotation, and yet they seem to win every time out.
Right, and that just shows you again how deep their rotation is, that Rodriguez is like their 4th starter. And for him to be your 4th starter, and it's almost a lock when he goes out there for whatever reason, him pitching well or them scoring a ton of runs, that is a great luxury to have, especially when you got Sale and David Price and Porcello and others around him. And now Stephen Wright is throwing great. That's a very good pitching staff. And now we had 3 teams get to 50 wins in the American League this year, and no league has ever had 3 teams get to 50 wins this early in any season. Just goes to show you how great the American League is right now.
So, in your opinion, Timmy, who is the best? Who is the best team in baseball?
Well, toss up, but I would take the Astros because they're the defending champions. The starting rotation is even better than Boston in New York. Their lineup, they lead the league. And once they get their bullpen straightened out, and they will, they're going to be the most complete team entering October. But to underestimate where the Yankees are now and where the Red Sox are would be a gigantic mistake because both those teams are really dangerous.
I'm not going to ask you if the Mets should or should not trade Jacob deGrom because I'm now with you. They're not trading Jacob deGrom. I don't think they should. I don't think they will. Having said that, they got beat yesterday 6-4. Kind of a productive road trip offensively with average 5 runs a game, but the starting pitching was a little bit below average, and now they'll bring on the Dodgers. We'll see Zach Wheeler tonight. But how about some thoughts on this Mets team that they'd won 3 in a row? You think okay, and then they run in really to a Rockies team, and this young man named Arenado, who's pretty darn good.
Yeah, as we know, fellas, the Mets are not going to the playoffs this year. I think we all know that. The National League is too good. The Braves are for real, and even though I think the Nationals will win that division, the Braves and the Phillies are clearly better than the Mets at this point, and they're just going to need to ride it out. We've been over this. You just can't rebuild in New York City, especially when the team across town is as good as the Yankees are. So the Mets are in a very precarious position right now, and they're going to have to figure this out going forward.
Tim, is there value in trading a Matz or a Wheeler? And I guess I should say, is there enough value in trading a Matz or a Wheeler?
I think so. I think they're on a different level than deGrom and Syndergaard. Matz is a very good young pitcher. He's a great athlete, and he's going to get better from here. And I would deal him, but only, of course, if they get the right package in return. I would deal Wheeler not because he doesn't have good stuff. I saw him in Atlanta the other night. He's got great stuff. But if you're going to get better, you're going to have to trade somebody. The point is, you don't trade your 2 best pitchers who are the 2 guys you should be building around.
Hey, Tim, the Reds have won 4 in a row, and Matt Harvey won a game yesterday.
Yeah, well, this is baseball, guys. It's so good. Every once in a while, teams jump up and win 4 or 6 in a row, and the Reds have played a little better since Jim Riggleman became the manager. Good for Matt Harvey. I always thought this was the best thing to happen to him. Get out of New York, restart his career in a slightly easier place to pitch than Citi Field. And he hasn't been great, but last night was encouraging, and he might pitch himself back into a pretty good team's rotation someday, but that's what the rest of the season is going to be about for him.
Tim, if we go all the way out west, and I know people have broken down the first 1,000 career games of Mike Trout, and his numbers are almost incomparable, even across many of the greats in this game. At the end of Trout's career, if he doesn't win a World Series or if he doesn't find great postseason success, are there going to be people who are going to say, yeah, but with him?
Well, sure. I mean, this is how we gauge our champ, whether you want a ring or not. I maintain, however, and this is fairly obvious, this is different than being a quarterback. This is different than being an NBA player when you touch the ball on every possession. You can work around players if you want to. Ted Williams never won a World Series, and don't tell me he wasn't one of the 5 or 10 greatest players of all time, because he was. But in baseball, the ultimate team sport, you can work around Mike Trout and say, hey, we're not going to let you beat us. Hey, he got walked with the bases empty the other day intentionally, which has only happened a few times this year, and it happened to Barry Bonds 19 times in one year, by the way. But, yes, people will look at Mike Trout, but I think he's going to win a World Series before he's done, and I think the numbers are going to be so overwhelming at the end.
Yeah,
we are going to be totally dazzled.
Always a pleasure, Tim Kurkjian. You're the best. We enjoy watching you, and I know our listeners love it when you're on Fridays with us at 10:30. We appreciate that. You have a great weekend.
Okay, guys.
Thank
so
you,
much.
Tim.
Thank you, Tim. Tim Kurkjian, ESPN baseball analyst with us every Friday here on Big Board Sports.